and Andy is someone who can explain it simply and clearly. So, give it up.
Thank you very much. Let's just get mics up. Anyone hot in here, by the way? Yeah. Is there any air conditioning? Oh, we should be happy for it to be warm. Okay, cool. Excellent. Let's just find my slides. There they are. Excellent. Okay, so my name's Andy Tobin. I'm the European Managing Director for a company called Evernym. And we're going to be talking about self-sovereign identity. We're going to run fairly quickly through this. There's going to be more on this topic from Dr. Manpreet Nijjar, who's sitting up here just in the identity track coming up. So there's a new thing going on that's going to affect all of us and all of the digital interactions that we have. It's going to completely transform the way that we prove who we are and what we're entitled to when we're online. So it's called self-sovereign identity, and it's also called decentralized identity, and it's called blockchain identity or portable digital identity. Lots of different terms, and this is one of the problems of this space is we have a lot of different terms. So what I'm going to do is just demystify this for you quickly. I'm going to say what it is, what it isn't, and what you can do with it. So these are the questions that we get asked a lot by pretty much everyone. What is this thing? How does it work? How can I use it? How do I make money from it is a common one. What do the regulators say if you're looking at regulated use cases like banking, KYC, and so on? And how do you start? So let's cover that first one first. What is self-sovereign identity? So if you get your wallets out and purses, why don't we all do this? Because, let's get a bit of action here. Get your wallet out, okay? Everyone, have a look at what have you got in there? I can see everyone getting their wallets out, money flooding down everywhere. So you might have some things in here like credentials, right? We call these credentials. So you've got a driving license, that's a credential. I've got bank card, that's a credential. You've all got these as well. I've got an AA card, that's a credential, okay? We all have these. These are all given to us and we carry them with us. And when we want to prove something, let's say you ask me, have I got a driving license? I can come up to you like this and I can show you that, okay? Nobody else is seeing this transaction. Nor should they. This is just how we work. This is how the physical world works. Paper, actually, and plastic, is the global standard for digital identity in the world. With a piece of paper, you can enter a country, you can buy a car, you can buy a house. Unfortunately, of course, it doesn't work online. We have no digital equivalent of paper or plastic credentials. Imagine if we did, what the difference would be. Every interaction we have online involves trust or identity of some sort. Is it you that's trying to log into the bank? Is it you trying to use the Wi-Fi here? Whoever tried to sign in, has anyone got into the Wi-Fi yet? Yeah, okay, so you need a username and password. It underpins every transaction, whether it's a person-to-person transaction or a thing talking to another thing or a person talking to an organization. Identity underpins everything. And because we don't have digital credentials that anyone can verify anywhere in the world, this is what happens. You become this little dot trying to get into the big dot here, which is a bank. And you do everything you can to prove who you are, and it takes days sometimes. And what do you get in return? You get a username and password and possibly some two-factor authentication. That's useless for me anywhere else. So to prove I have a bank account to an electricity company, I print out my bank statement on a piece of paper and take it and show them, because the bank hasn't given me a digital credential I can use. And of course, what happens is we all have tens or hundreds of these accounts. It's insane. Not only that, it kills customer experience. Think of all of the friction points in an online journey that you might go through to sign up for a new service, or just to buy a thing, entering all your details in. Of course, what you enter in, what you type in, name, address, it could be anything. Nobody knows if it's real or not. So they have to spend more money checking it. So it's a customer experience nightmare. Here's an example of why digital identity these days is useless. This is a state-of-the-art project done with the Open Identity Exchange in the UK. I'm leaving names off here to protect the innocent. The scenario here is, could a French citizen come to the UK and get a bank account? And here are all the entities that would need to be involved in making that work within the European identity standard called EIDAS, where there's a French identity provider. A French identity provider is, there's no person in here, by the actual citizen isn't shown on this picture, but let's not worry about that. On the left-hand side is the, have I got a dotty thing? Yeah. The relying is a bank. So somehow the bank has to get the French citizen's identity information through all of these various different systems and hubs and exchanges, each one of which has to be paid for by somebody and needs to make some money. So is it any wonder that we can't have nice things? Okay? Wouldn't it be good if you did something like this? The French identity provider gives the French citizen a digital credential. The French citizen comes to the UK and the bank says, "Who are you?" And they say, "Here, look, this is me." And they can do that, and that information can be verified instantly. And that person can be onboarded into that new bank in seconds, using information that is verifiably correct. So transformative. And of course, once that citizen has that credential, they can use it anywhere for anything, just like you can with a paper credential. So this is the simplicity. It's hard to kind of get this across, right? But we all have this capability already with paper and plastic. Why can't we have it digitally, right? Why, when I get a driving license, can't I get a digital version that I can use anywhere for anything? So there's some capabilities we need in order to make this perfect world happen. I'll come on to what they are in a second. So first of all, what self-sovereign identity isn't. It's not a replacement for civil registers. It's not like anarchy where everyone is saying, you know, I'm Spartacus, right? You still need people to issue credentials to you. You have credentials at the moment, physical ones. You need people to issue the digital ones. It's the same people, the same organizations, the same institutions. It's also not a rip and replace of existing identity schemes. What will happen is they will be enhanced to issue and verify digital credentials. It's not something that replaces blacklists. If I go to a bank and say, hey, I'd like a new bank account, or I go, you know, I turn up at Heathrow and say, yeah, can I come in the country? They're not going to say, oh yeah, are you on the terror watch list? And I go, oh yes, I am, right? That doesn't work in the real physical world, and it doesn't work here, because you can't force someone to reveal something about them you don't want, so you still need blacklists. And it doesn't mean people self-attest everything about themselves, right? It just means whenever you get a physical credential, a physical piece of paper, you can get a digital one. So for people, what does it mean? The ability to hold and manage and present their own digitally verifiable credentials, just like we do in the physical world, for any purpose, anywhere in the world, with privacy and security, just like that direct transaction I did with this young gentleman here. Nobody else sees it, nor should they. For organizations, it's going to be transformative. The ability for any organization to issue and verify any digital credential about anything. Just like any organization can print a piece of paper that says you're an employee, or you're allowed to come in here, or here's your badge for the conference. Okay? Anyone can print or create a digital credential about anything. And organizations can have their own digital identities. And they can prove that they're organizations. They've got a VAT number, right? They're a supplier to the Scottish government, whatever it may be. And what's really important here is open standards, no vendor lock-in. So we've spent millions creating a whole bunch of software that we've open sourced. I'll come on to that in a second. And you can use it for free right now if you want to, just like the internet, okay? For you and me, what does this mean? So it's transformative. And once you get into this world, you can't, everything becomes digital credentials, basically. Simplicity and privacy. No more usernames and passwords. No more. Why not? Well, if I have a bank account Instead of giving me a username and password, they'll give me a credential. When I go back to the bank, I can prove who I am because I have the credential they gave me, and I say, look, it's me coming back. Here's the thing you gave me. You couldn't have given it to anyone else, and nobody else can present it. So no more usernames and passwords, no more registration forms. Can I sign up to this website? You don't have to fill anything in. Your phone goes ping, and they say, please give us your name, your address, whatever information they want, and you go, there you go. No more spam or phishing, because you know where any communication coming to you comes from. So it's called mutual authentication. I know it's them, and they know it's me. At the moment, it's one way. The bank knows it's me, but I don't know it's the bank. And secure private comms by default. For organizations, there's always been this trade-off, hasn't there, between friction and security. You want to get people in quickly, low friction, and your security plummets. You increase the security, you put loads of barriers in the way, you get a user experience nightmare. For organizations, you can now have both. You can have very low friction and very high security at the same time. So it's like nirvana for any online user experience person. One click, onboard, register, pay for anything. You can instantly verify that customer data is authentic. Regulatory compliance. The data is coming from the person. It's not coming through 9 different organizations and hubs. It's coming from me to the organization with my consent. So all sorts of impacts on GDPR. And if you really want to, because it becomes so easy to ask for some information from someone and verify it, once you've executed the transaction, you can delete that information because you can always ask for it again. Use case examples. Actually, I took that out because we're going to have probably the best use case example coming up with Dr. Nijar after coffee, I think. But literally, you can think of thousands, like bank onboarding, pharmaceutical supply chain authentication, airline ticketing, anywhere where you need to authenticate who or what someone is. So how can organizations help their customers or users? So why isn't your organization giving people digital credentials already? Why aren't you verifying digital credentials already? You can do that straight away, okay? You can help people with backup and recovery. People will need help understanding how this works. The question we're always asked is, what if I lose my phone? If I have some credentials on my phone, what if I lose my phone? That's the same as asking me, what if I lose my wallet? If I lose my wallet with this stuff, what do I do? Same question, but in the world of digital credentials, I can back them up and restore them. I can revoke my phone's ability to act on my behalf. Okay? Credentials within my digital wallet can be revoked by the issuers of those credentials to make them useless. So there's lots of capabilities, and people will need help with those. So organizations can help to provide those. So banks we're speaking to at the moment are looking to do exactly that. What do regulators say? So we've got some really interesting projects on the go already. One of the best ones is a bank onboarding project with the FCA, working with Deloitte and a company called Onfido, who do online real-time ID verification. Selfie, picture of your driving license, match it up. And rather than doing that every single time, once you do that once, they're going to issue a credential. In fact, they do it already. You can try this if you download the Evernym Connect.me app. It has Onfido built in. It issues a credential. You can then use that credential to onboard at 6 of the banks that we're speaking to at the moment. So the regulators are looking at this already, but you don't need to wait for regulators because there's lots of unregulated use cases. I'm going quite quick here because I think people are going to need about a gallon of water shortly. So to deliver this vision, to make, what do you need to do to make it happen? Well, you need some open standards. The reason email works on every phone we have is because you have SMTP underneath it. The reason you can use any browser and you access any website is you've got HTML, you've got TCP/IP. These open standards exist. And you need to have a protocol that is interoperable. And I haven't mentioned anything about blockchain stuff here yet. There is lurking underneath some of this, there is a place to store the public keys of some issuers who are issuing credentials. It's not storing the credentials, it's not storing hashes of credentials or anything else. So a lot of the issues with ledgers, as was said earlier, is they can be very slow if they're not designed correctly. If you design them correctly, it can be much faster, but also if you don't put very much on it, it can be much better. So the technology we're talking about here does not involve any kind of placement of any personal information on any ledger, because that would be obviously very, very bad for many reasons I could go into over lunch. So Evernym, we're about 50 people based in Salt Lake City. I'm in London and Skye, as it happens. We created this thing called Sovereign, which some of you would probably have heard of, and we donated the underlying code for that, which is now called Hyperledger Indy. So if you come across those things, we're the company behind that. Let's talk quickly about ecosystems, because the question often we get is, how does this get started? So we have ourselves, like tens of companies, probably 40 odd at the moment, experimenting with this technology now that are our customers, and we have many others around the world who are using the open source code as well. And we're going to hear of one with the NHS shortly from Dr. Nijar. But what happens is, because this is open, you go from closed identity, siloed identity, like I've got my thing here, but I can't use it over there, to open identity. So a credential issued for one purpose, like a banking credential that lets me authenticate back to my bank, I can use that with my telco. I can use it to prove my address to somebody. I can use it to prove my age. So these ecosystems will build and overlap. You'll get ecosystems that are usable for a particular thing, like identity for doctors, as we'll see. But then a doctor has a verifiable identity about themselves that they can use anywhere in the world. And these ecosystems will grow. Because you have an open standard and you have interoperability out of the box, a credential issued here at the university today could be used tomorrow in Australia if I fly over there and I need to prove, or even if I don't fly, even if I need to register for something in Australia and they need to know I've been at Napier University for some reason, I can do that. So open standards, this is all about opening up the world instead of keeping it closed in silos. One example is the Alberta credential ecosystem. So the Canadians are fantastically innovative here. Along with folks like the Finns and the Estonians, the Canadians have set up the Alberta credential ecosystem. And in there we have healthcare provision from Blue Cross. We've got ATB, which is a bank. We've got ourselves helping to orchestrate it. We've got TELUS, who's the main communications provider, mobile and landline. We've got University of Calgary. We've got Nathan Sate, which is Southern Alberta and Northern Alberta government technology providers. We've got the City of Edmonton, and we've got the Government of Calgary. Okay? So they've all come together to say, well, hang on a minute, if I've just gone through KYC and Know Your Customer check to get a bank account with ATB, can't I use that somewhere else? And indeed you can. You could use that to prove your address to Edmonton City in order to get some kind of city benefits. You could use your proof of your mobile number that you get from TELUS to show that this is you that's trying to log into a bank. Lots of different use cases that will emerge from this. So they're working on this right now. And I suggest we should have a Scottish one. We can't let the Canadians win, right? Let's have a Scottish credential ecosystem. We've already got a number of people that have approached us that are interested. I would recommend that we create a Scottish ecosystem. We take the people in this room, right here now, within a month, well actually within a few days, could start issuing and verifying each other's credentials. Okay, we're happy to orchestrate it. I'm sure there are others in this room who would love to take part. So we'd really like to see a Scottish ecosystem going. And I think with Will's help and a bit of coordination from some others, we can make that happen. So you can start with this now. If you want to see what a credential looks like, you can go and get one. You can get an Onfido credential, real live one, right now. So if you can get on the internet. Try.connect on me, have a look at that. It runs through a little sequence of some demos of what credentials look like and how you get them. So go and have a play with that. The code is all there. There is work happening, serious work by very, very clever people at the World Wide Web Consortium who are looking at standards